Going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
The Automaker CEO announced yesterday that layoffs are needed to keep the company moving
forward, as the car maker confirms it will be laying off nearly 3,000 employees.
What if a policy meant to save jobs ends up destroying 400,000 of them? That's exactly what happened with Trump's steel tariffs, a decision meant to shield American industry, but ended up shaking its very core. The moment those tariffs went into effect, the cracks started showing. Not in Washington, but on the factory floors of Ford, GM, and hundreds of small manufacturers already fighting to stay alive. What looked like simple numbers on a policy paper soon hit real people. Families, paychecks, dinner tables. So how did a move meant to protect American workers end up hurting them? And in this story, who's really winning? And who's being left behind? Let's break it down in today's video. Note, this video is an independent analysis based on public sources. It does not represent any organization or political stance. We encourage you to think critically and share your thoughts in the comments. It's painful to watch symbols fall, especially ones that once stood for pride and prosperity. For decades, Ford and GM were the heartbeat of working-class America. A single job on the assembly line could support a whole family. Respect came with a hard hat and a punch clock. But by 2025, that world is fading fast. Ford reported a staggering $2 billion loss this year. $800 million just in Q2. GM's projected to lose up to $5 billion, forcing production cuts and delaying key vehicle launches. Why? Experts say it's not just about EVs or changing tastes, but politics. Steel and aluminum tariffs are back, and they're biting harder than ever. The jump to a 50% steel tariff this June pushed prices sky high. Steel that once cost $700 a ton now goes for up to $950. Aluminum's no better. That adds $1,500 to $2,000 in raw material costs for every car. Up to 8% of a vehicle's value. That $2,000? It's a year of car insurance, a semester of college, a family's vacation, and now it's just added to the sticker price of your next car. Ford and GM try to pass the cost to buyers, but it makes their cars less competitive. Hyundai, Toyota, and others don't face those same tariffs, and now their vehicles are cheaper without sacrificing quality. And it's not just the big names hurting. Every car depends on hundreds of suppliers, metal shops in Ohio, plastic molders in Ontario, truckers, welders, framers. When input costs spike, these small businesses crack first. They delay hiring, stop upgrades, lay off workers, or shut down entirely. Some U.S. production is already shifting. Lincoln and Cadillac models are moving to Mexico and Canada, places without tariff pressure and with lower costs. The fallout isn't just economic, it's cultural. Ford and GM once funded schools, sports teams, scholarships. Now, with budgets bleeding, those contributions are drying up. Payrolls are shrinking. Community roots are fading. This isn't just about profits. It's the slow death of a system that once gave millions away up. And what about the smaller workshops, the ones without billion-dollar backup plans? A shop in suburban Michigan that once employed 120 now has just 12 workers. Dust coats the machines. The sign still hangs, but the sound of work is gone. Tariffs may save a steel mill, but who saves the workers losing their jobs around it? According to the trade partnership, 400,000 U.S. jobs have vanished, directly or indirectly, since these tariffs began. So again we ask, who's being protected, and at what cost? What if saving one job meant quietly sacrificing 16 others, and no one noticed until it was too late? That's not a theory. It's the reality playing out in real-world supply chains, where steel isn't just metal. It's the backbone of entire industries. A recent report found that for every steel job protected by tariffs, up to 16 are lost in steel-using sectors. Why? Because while big steel companies may absorb higher input costs or get subsidies, small businesses, like auto part shops or electronics makers, can't. Steel coil prices jumped from $700 to over $950 per ton in just the first half of 2025. For small manufacturers using 100 to 200 tons monthly, that's an extra $40,000 to $50,000 per quarter. Enough to halt hiring, delay upgrades, or worse, lay off workers. That same money could have paid a full year's salary for a young engineer or bought a mid-size metal stamping machine. Instead, it goes to cover a price hike that adds no value, just keeps the business afloat. But these stories don't make headlines. A canceled contract, a paused order, a layoff notice on a quiet Friday. Like the 58-year-old machinist in Michigan, laid off after 30 years on the job. "I thought I'd retire here," he said. "Now I sit at home, not knowing where to start again." He's not alone. Many older workers are too young to retire, too old to easily retrain, stuck between protectionist policy and a labor market demanding speed and tech skills. Meanwhile, we celebrate a few thousand jobs saved in steel. But what about the hundreds of thousands lost in silence? Those who use steel to build things are often left out of the conversation. So here's the question. We saved the steel job, but who's saving the people who depended on it? The Peterson Institute estimates it costs about $900,000 a year to save one steel job through tariffs. Yet that job contributes only $270,000 to the economy. The rest? Ripple effects, lost spending, falling productivity, displaced workers. What else could we do with $900,000? Retrain dozens of workers into in-demand jobs. Provide a year of rent support for 50 families. Or fund nearly a year's worth of family meals. In Flint, Michigan, local organizations say they're overwhelmed with calls, not for steel jobs, but for water, food, and basic medication. These aren't people who march or shout. They just tighten their budgets, skip doctor visits, and slowly shrink their dinner portions. And in the growing noise of politics, their silence is often mistaken for consent. The real damage isn't just in lost paychecks. It's in the skipped meals, unfilled prescriptions, and children quietly giving up on college dreams. If 400,000 auto sector job losses made headlines, how many other industries are vanishing without a sound? Big companies like Ford and GM get all the attention. But behind them are thousands of smaller businesses in construction, defense, and engineering, where steel price hikes ripple fast. In construction alone, steel costs surged 40 to 50% from mid-2023 to early 2025, pushing total project costs up 5 to 15%. That's enough to delay or cancel schools, bridges, and hospitals. And that brings us back to the core question. Are we truly protecting American workers, or just protecting a narrative? When steel prices rise, it's not just metal that bends. Entire communities do. Jobs vanish, factories stall, and small towns fall silent. From construction crews to contractors, the ripple is real. In industries like HVAC, farm machinery, and heavy equipment, owners are stuck. Input costs are soaring, but they can't raise prices, not when they're competing with cheaper, untaxed imports. Margins that were once 12% have dropped to just 3 or 4%. That means no new hires, no equipment upgrades, no expansion, just survival. Even defense contractors, once thought immune to market swings, are feeling it. Spikes in metal costs have forced delays and contract revisions, threatening not just delivery schedules, but national security timelines. All this because one policy decision changed the game. What if protecting American steel ends up breaking America's global power? In May 2025, the U.S. slapped steep new tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, not just on rivals like China, but on allies like Canada, the EU, and Mexico. No exceptions. Just a hard line drawn overnight. Tariffs shot up to 50%. The response? Swift and brutal. Canada hit back with taxes on U.S. steel, machinery, bourbon, and beef. The EU went symbolic, targeting American jeans, whiskey, and motorcycles. Mexico, a major buyer of U.S. farm goods, struck corn, pork, apples, and walnuts, crushing exports from states like Iowa and Texas. In just 3 months, sales to Mexico fell by 27%. But the deeper damage wasn't to trade. It was to trust. A Wisconsin manufacturer lost a $3 million European deal. Why? The buyer turned to South Korea, same quality, no drama. Because global trade isn't just business. It's relationships. And once trust is gone, it rarely comes back. This isn't just about making steel. It's about whether anyone will still buy it. One tariff can snap a supply chain designed in the US, assembled in Asia, and sold in Europe. Not temporarily, permanently. The real threat? Not retaliation, redirection of trade, influence, and power. The U.S. risks fading from the global stage, not through war, but through policy. And what's left behind? Shuttered factories, lost jobs, towns waiting for a future that never arrives. Can you really call that a win? Let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. This was just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Digital Garage has so much more in store.